Hi everybody, welcome back to another Audi C7 owner's video, and today's video is a special one. We're going to be talking about how you remove a 3.0T engine from your C7. I don't know how close this is going to be to a B8S4, but I'm assuming it's going to be relatively close. But I'm here with Michael Swanay, aka Audi 3.0 Work. If you're not following his YouTube channel, definitely head over there. He's going to have a bunch of videos detailing not only also removing an engine, but also rebuilding one of these, and he's going to have a lot of good content. So Mike, hand over to you. Obviously it's out already. We've already done the work. We got it out in about 4.5 hours.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
And that was filming stuff, but with the aid of a lift. But basic rundown, just real quick, not every detail, but basic rundown. What do we need to do, or what do we need to do to get this out?
For sure, it's going to be pretty much the same across any platform for this, but it is. It's really just taking stuff apart. You know, it's a lot when you look at it, but really it's a matter of, you know, you're draining everything out, you're disconnecting all the coolant hose, all the coolant lines, and then I like to move on to electrical lines, which is you have two different options. You can leave the harness on the engine or leave the harness in the engine. And I'm going to be having, I'm actually doing it now in my driveway. I pulled my engine again.
Is that like the fourth?
For the third time, I pulled out of my car, pulling this one. So I've pulled them 4 times, and it's kind of coming like clockwork now, but it's disconnecting everything. Going slow, we start on the top, taking the engine harness off with the fuse box, flapping it up on top, taking the rest of the harness off the bottom, disconnecting the coolant lines off the front that go to the front radiator and everything. And then we go to the bottom, you have some more coolant lines down there, some electrical lines, and really like, summing it up, because there's a lot, it's really just a matter of disconnecting anything that stays on the car. But I am going to have some in-depth detail videos on that on my channel. We also did some recording on this when we did it on here to give you a little bit more of a rundown. But all in all, it can be intimidating right off the bat, but it's pretty simple. We did have the lift and the table and everything that makes it as easy as possible, which is great. And you know, I've got a video I'm working on right now, doing it in my driveway with a self-made little cart that I did, you know, by myself. So you can do it at any point in time. It's a great project, and we're looking forward to getting this one back in.
And overall, it's time-consuming and tedious, but it's not difficult. That was what surprised me. It wasn't difficult at all. So, all right, well, cool. Well, we're gonna Tarantino this and jump into the install from about a month ago, or the removal from about a month ago. So I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have questions, as always, leave them in the comments below. Let's get into it.
Awesome.
All right, so what we're doing here is we're picking the center of the hub here, put some painter's tape on the outside, and we're gonna be marking a spot on the painter's tape and then the dimensions or whatever the measurement is. And that way we know that when we're getting it back up, like I said, we're getting it relatively in the same spot. There's probably a 1/2 inch on each side of play when it's all said and done. So if you don't do this, you're really messing up and taking the chance of not having a possible way to get your alignment back. So we're going to pick an even 18. Yeah, if you want to hold that there. I'm going to pick an even 18 inches and mark that spot, and then right next to it, 18 inches. Just like that, nice and easy.
All right, Mike, so we're going to start disconnecting stuff from the engine because refrigerant's already been drained. We had the responsible shop do that, of course. Got the coolant out, got the oil out, and so now it's just starting to disconnect stuff that is attached to the car and also the engine, right?
Absolutely.
So one thing that's different, obviously the supercharger is off already. I'm not using a supercharger. We don't need one to lift the engine up. We're dropping out the bottom. But you have to disconnect the upper radiator hoses, or the upper supercharger coolant loop hoses, which mine don't have the OEM ones because I have a divorce setup, so yours would be those metal ones that kind of come up right here and connect to the front of the supercharger. Mine are already disconnected, so what else are we gonna disconnect?
All right, so we have the upper coolant lines, the upper radiator hose here. We're gonna disconnect the refrigerant line on this side from the top. And then that's on that side. You have the hard lines here on the side, and then we'll go to the bottom, disconnect the lower radiator hose, a few other hard lines that we'll have to disconnect from the oil cooler and all that kind of stuff. And then after that, we'll come back and do the electrical lines. But we also have up here the coolant lines that run up through the firewall.
To the HVAC, or to the heater core, right?
To the heater core and everything. But that is all for the heater lines, should be. There's always one that you don't think about when you're talking, and then you see.
And we will mention those if we come across those. Fuel line, we'll have to disconnect.
Yep, fuel line.
Yep.
And then obviously the the coolant pump over there, we'll disconnect that.
Yep.
All the lines from there. That's obviously going to be different from OEM also because you are running the divorce supercharger. So those will be a little bit different than OEM.
Yep.
But
Got the gist of it.
Start on the coolant lines up top, and then we'll do the ones on the bottom.
Cool. All right, Mike. So we got fuel line disconnected, coolant line here disconnected, radiator. Did we disconnect that radiator line over there? Okay. So that's disconnected over there. We disconnected the high pressure charge line for the AC. Got that out of the way. I disconnected my catch can, which most people won't have. So now we're gonna pull off these plastics and what else?
So the plastics, the cross member here, we're going to take that off so we can access
strut bar here.
Strut bar, so we can access the coolant lines that go into the radiator back there.
And also the wiring harness or like the connection.
Yep, and this will take the washer fluid off the container here, which will access to the ECU. And then from there, we can actually disconnect all the wires and grounds, and it'll kind of...
Should we disconnect the battery first?
Yes. Definitely disconnect the battery first. And then we'll be able to disconnect, or the whole ECU and everything is actually going to come out. So the entire wiring harness will come out in one whole thing.
All right.
So
we'll work on that.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, so we've got the ECU out. After the ECU is out, we're going to take this cover plate off here for all the electrical connections for the car. And then from there, I'll show you when we get in there, but that whole part will come out. And then it's just a matter of following back this way, disconnecting all of these here, and then your whole harness will come off out over that way, off to the side. And then, we'll disconnect it from there, where that power part is. Yep. And then that's pretty much the entire wiring harness from the top that needs to be disconnected.
All right.
All right, so now we have the cover off. You can kind of see where everything's going in and connected. It's real simple. You just have these 3 clips on each side. So you have one here, one on this side, and then one in the back. It's a little bit harder to see, but it's just a matter of pulling this tab and then working it out. So once that comes out, you'll be able to pull the shroud off from here.
It just goes straight up, right?
Yep, straight up. And then same thing to here. You have tabs on this, but then this will come up, and then you'll be able to move and work up to the best. But if you haven't done it, it can look kind of scary, but it's super easy. There's 1, 2, and 3. Put that one back in. There we go. Just like that. Nice. Easy.
Not bad at all.
And actually this has to come off. So are you recording or just light?
I'm recording.
Okay. So you'll have to disconnect a few of these connectors because they do run through the bottom of the housing. But it's just the red one in the front, the white one in the front, and then this screw in the back here, and then that frees the entire system up.
Cool.
All right, so we've got those 2 wires we were talking about getting off right here. Off that, it's actually nice. The bolt kind of is on that wire, and the same thing back there. So you're going to get this ground wire off, and I will highly suggest when you're doing this, pay attention to every single ground wire that you're taking off, because that will cause a lot of headaches if you miss one in the future.
All right, so we're about to disconnect all of these wires from this junction box. Bunch of 10 mils and I think 12 mils. The best way to keep track of all these wires is just take a picture. Take a picture of it, or you could try and mark the wires, but otherwise just take a picture, store it on your phone so you know how these go back together, but they essentially all connect to the same plate anyway, so we're gonna get those disconnected and removed.
Yeah, that should be good.
All right, Mike, so we're ready. We're done on the top, right? We've
done on the top.
Got the wiring harness over the engine. We've got the left side that's going to go down underneath. We got to disconnect that on the bottom somewhere. We got all of the stuff back there disconnected, all the hoses. Obviously, when we start to move this thing, if we forgot anything, it'll reveal itself quickly.
Indeed.
But
usually there's 1 or 2 connectors that you'll find,
yep,
and it looks like a mess, but it's really not. It's the left side and the right side of the wiring harness. Just pulled out from behind that false firewall. It's not a whole lot.
This is actually going a lot smoother than I expected so far. So, all right, let's get it up and finish on the bottom. All right, so now we're under the car. What do we got to disconnect? What's the first thing?
So we're going to kind of work our way across.
On the passenger side here.
Yep, so we've got to disconnect the secondary air injection.
Okay.
And then moving right over to the lower coolant hose, or the lower radiator hose.
Yep.
And then you have your 2 wire connections.
Real quick on the radiator hose, there's a pin, right? Show me that, like there's a connecting class that has to come off, right?
Yep, you can see it really good from this side.
Right, let me sneak around.
Yeah. Right there. So these hoses, they just have this little clip They slide down to lock in, and they slide up.
And then we just wedge it off, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, after that.
And then coming over, we have our connectors for our fans, and it's just a matter of sliding that red part out, like so, and then you pinch it, and those will come right off.
Okay.
And then coming further over this way, the next thing we're going to do is disconnect. We have our coolant pump here, so we'll disconnect the lines off of that, and that'll be pretty much it for all of our lines in the front.
We already took the transmission brace off because we're obviously going to need to dropping the whole trans and everything down. So we got the brace off already. It's sitting over there. And what else back here?
So back here you have your coolant lines coming off your cooler for your transmission right here.
Yep.
So we'll drain those out. You'll also need to wave my hand and turn the light back on.
I'm just going to press the button.
Hey, there we go. Then you have your steering link here. So we'll disconnect that from your steering rack.
Okay.
And you got your plug here for your transmission.
Okay.
And
That's for the TCU, right?
TCU, yep. And then you'll have your linkage right here for your shifter.
Okay.
Disconnect the downpipes or cats, whatever you have.
Yep. We have to drop the exhaust to get to the, but we'll do that later. But for now, we're talking about engine connections.
Engine connection. That's pretty much it from the downside.
Okay.
So
we'll get to working on that. Yep. All right, Mike, so in terms of suspension, we're going to remove the upper control arms.
Yes, sir.
We're going to try and just unbolt the strut from the top of the car so we can drop it down versus removing the wishbone from over here. We're going to remove the caliper and the wheel speed sensors.
That's it.
And that's it. Okay,
that's
cool. Let's get it done. All right, Mike, so we've got everything up top done. We've got all the suspension done. We have all of the fluid lines and everything underneath the front done. So all we have left is drop the exhaust, which mine is going to be tricky because it's welded all the way back, so we have to fully drop my exhaust. Normal people will just do...
You could just hacksaw it right here.
I am not hacksawed anything. Most people just have a clamp here and disconnect at the cats and drop that section and they'll be good. Once that's down, we will do the trans mount, disconnect the drive shaft, and then talk about the wiring that we got to do down here.
Yeah, it's just it's real easy. You got one ground wire right here, which connects to the rest of the wiring harness a little bit further back, which is just a quick disconnect. Real easy. And then you have a few grounds up here. You have a ground that connects to the frame over...
Let me go on the other side.
Yeah, here we go.
Yep.
So the wiring harness that was on the left side of the engine.
Yep.
You got this ground right here, which will bring that separated completely.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's it. And then on the right side, same thing. There is a ground up here that we're gonna have to find. Or maybe not. Maybe it was just the other side.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out easy once we start lowering it.
Exactly.
And
that's
then
what I was talking about. You may find a wire here or there that is just.
All right.
You got to disconnect.
And once all this is done, it's just 6 subframe bolts, which we'll point those out in a little bit, and it's coming down.
That's it.
Oh boy, here we go. All right, Mike, explain what we're doing, removing the drive shaft.
All right, so with the drive shaft, real easy. You got two, what is it, 230?
They were 240s.
240 bolts that we pulled off of this cover.
And those lock into
right
here on each side.
Yep. And then from there, normally there's this boot that goes in here.
You mean that rip piece that when I had my transmission changed, there should have been a boot there that got torn and never replaced?
Exactly. So usually that boot will extend all the way to there, and you'll have a clamp of some sort. It could be a hose clamp. It could, I don't know what OEM clamps are.
I'm sure that's not really important on there.
No. But so from there, we don't need to take anything else off. We're just going to slide it off.
All right, so we just disconnect these bolts, right?
Nope.
No,
touch that.
All right.
Leave those on.
So it just slides off now?
Right off of that.
Okay, well, cool. And it probably won't slide on mine because I got the JXB carrier. We might have to loosen that up to get some room. But maybe on OEM it should slide.
I don't remember.
We'll figure it out. Either way, it's got to slide off.
It should.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, we also have to remove the trans cooler. Yeah, that's what that is, right?
Yeah.
And so that's just 3 T30s. There's one on each end and one on the back because we have to get that out of the way to get up here and access the, what was that, the flywheel bolts?
I think that's the right word for it.
Yeah. But we got to access the bolts that basically, like, will disconnect the
inside of the transmission.
Yeah.
Pretty much the inside of the transmission, it's connected, so we got to get it because it's on the bottom. But once that's out, we can get the rest of the bolts off and separate it.
There we go. All right, I'm going to take that off then. All right, so we're under the car. We dropped the trans cooler down, and this is the plate that we have to get to. There's a little plastic cover there that just pops out. All right, so Mike, which ones are we doing? Those.
So right inside here.
On that wheel?
Yep, there we go. Right there. You're going to have 6 of these bolts, and you're going to have to turn the engine to get to each of them.
Okay.
So there's a special tool that you can do, or if you
just manually turn it by.
you can manually turn the
which is what
the
we'll be
crank
doing.
pulley, which will give you access to each one of those bolts.
All right, and what size are those?
Those are, I just had it on
T16 or sorry, 16 millimeter, right?
16 millimeters.
Yep.
So
All right, let's get them done. Just to make sure we covered this, we removed the shift linkage. This was attached here. You just pop that off, and then up here, this sits in a bracket, and it's actually pretty easy to remove. But we were being stubborn, and this bracket bolts in here with two 10 mils, and we just remove those 10 mils to get this loose. So now, all that's left is the we got to remove the strut tower and then the subframe.
that's it.
Did we get
the transmission bracket?
Transmission bracket, yep. All right, let's do it. Okay, so we're at the point that all we have left is the transmission mount bolts and the subframe bolts. Everything else is disconnected. We have this awesome jack table here, or what do you, is that the pronounce? Like, is that the right word? Sure.
Hydraulic jack table.
There you go, hydraulic jack table, and this is gonna make life 10 times easier because we have the engine resting on it. So I'm gonna hand the camera over to Mike, and he's gonna show you the subframe bolts that you need to remove.
All right, so real easy. There's 3 of them each side. You can kind of get a good picture here. You have the 2 on the back, and then you have 1 up front, which is a little harder to see, but it's right there.
And they're 18 millimeter?
18 millimeter.
All right. So Mike, what did we just discover? Why won't the front of the engine come down?
Your complete car has 4 subframe bolts on each side.
So mine's a 2013, and is there a chance that your 2012 just has 3 and the 2013 has 4, or do you think that your car just was missing subframe bolts?
I wouldn't give it away to either one of those. I would imagine that it could be missing one.
Do you want to show the people where the 4th one is?
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. I'll go back and look at mine, see if it's missing it, or maybe I'm just an idiot.
Shot, and I can put an arrow on it.
Yeah. All right. Right there is the 4th one.
Still looking like an 18.
Yeah, it's definitely still gonna be an 18.
All
so
right.
you have.
Let me go grab the impacts.
Yeah.
All right, so it's completely out of the vehicle. We had a couple casualties when bring it up. We missed a couple connectors over here, and so you can see the busted wires. It is what it is. We'll splice those back together. If that's the worst that we did, then yeah, it's pretty successful in my book, especially since I've never done this before. I know you have, but still, yeah, killer job, man. That's infinitely easier. We did this in what, with filming 4 hours?
Yeah, just about.
Yep. So 4 hours to get the engine out with a lift. With a lift and the table. The table is a huge help.
Thank you a couple days if you don't have that.
Yeah, so excellent. All right, so one thing you guys need to make sure you do is stay organized. You can see I got a whole pile of baggies, and you can see everything's labeled Driveshaft, heat shield, 10 millimeter. So I got these 2 10 millimeter nuts. These are the subframe bolts. Subframe 18 millimeter replace question mark. That's for me to find out if these are stretch bolts that need to be replaced. I think they are. So this will help me stay organized and know what goes where when I go to put this thing back into the car. All right, guys, we're done. That wraps up the video removing the engine. Mike, I can't thank you enough, man. That was awesome. So the next video is going to be us taking this off of the subframe and actually, let me get turned on here, and pretty much tearing this engine down, removing the accessories, showing you what I'm keeping to go onto the new engine and what's going to be transferred to the new engine and stuff that I'm going to be getting rid of, like the SAI system and stuff like that. So that'll be the next video in this series. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was a lot of work. It actually wasn't too terribly complicated, just tedious. So yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much. Everybody go check out Mike's YouTube channel. It'll be links below. Go follow him because he's going to have a lot of engine rebuilding content coming up because he just finished rebuilding an engine all on his own. He's got upgraded camshafts, like whole 9 yards. So follow him, check his stuff out, and we'll see you on the next video.
Appreciate it.